Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio e buonasera. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Sono Marie e questo è Marie a Firenze. My name is Marie and this is Marie in Florence. Well, welcome back, subscribers. I'm so grateful and appreciative that you've decided to join me and stick with me. And new viewers, oh my God, thank you so much. Since my appearance on Brad's World Health YouTube channel, I've noticed an increase in my subscription rate of about 300% so far. Guys, I am blown away and I'm truly humbled. So thank you for joining me and welcome. I hope you guys will stick with me though, because I have so much in store and it requires an audience. So if you don't mind, could you please subscribe to my channel before we go any further? Just give yourself a little pause. If you pause the video, look below, you see a red button that says subscribe, hit it, and also just give me a thumbs up. I try my best always to give you guys good content. I know I'm an amateur, I'm like below an amateur, but I try my best to give you my best content. And I hope that you're enjoying it. Okay, today's video is going to be quite interesting because a lot of people have been asking me this question, and I've decided to sit down and give you my full journey. Okay, so if you are interested, come on, come with me and see. Grab a cup of tea, coffee, water, whatever it is that you like to drink at the moment, because it's going to be a little lengthy. Thank you so much. Hey guys, so I've decided to make a video for you guys answering your questions on my student visa process. Okay guys, but before we get started, I have to make a disclaimer stating that I am not in any capacity whatsoever capable of giving legal advice or legal recommendations when it comes to this process. I can simply only share my story with you, and hopefully it will be helpful to your journey of the process, right? I do not work for the government. In order for you to get the legal recommendations, please visit your consulate office in whatever city, state, country, or province that you're from, and they will be able to guide you and advise you correctly, okay? I am not in any way, shape, or form making any kind of those recommendations for you. Again, I'm simply sharing my story to my journey, okay? So guys, let's get started. So yes, I came here on a student visa. However, before we get to there, let me explain how I ended up getting my visa, because I actually applied twice. And so the process was not very easy for me either. However, with persistence, the help of and kindness of strangers, and a little tenacity, I am sitting here today and still I'm waiting for my permesso di soggiorno. So it's still a process. So yes, you get here, it's not just smooth sailing, right? But so before we get started, you just have to know that you have to think not only on the US side of things, but you are going to also have to think on the Italian side of things when you get here, because what applies in the US, yes, it applies here also. But when you get here, there's also a list of other things that you're going to have to take care of in order to get where you need to be, right? I am not recommending that if you're trying to move to Italy permanently, that you do it on a student visa, because that in itself, it's a whole different set of rules and a different ball game altogether. I came here out of ignorance, no lie. I came here, my very first time was after I got a medical scare. And this is not for sympathy. I have to, if I'm going to tell you the process, it has to go according to how it happened for me. Okay? That is the only thing. Again, this is not, remember, I'm not an attorney. I do not work for the immigration or the government. So I'm telling you my story, and this is what my story entails. Okay? So please bear with me. I will get there. I will try to cover as much of the questions as asked. So let's go on. Okay? So before, let me take this glass off because I know there's a glare, and yeah. So, okay, for me personally, my desire to be in Italy was not simply I woke up one day and decided, you know what, I want to go to Italy. My desire to be here was a feeling I've had for over 20 years. I would always tell my clients, my friends, family, back in the States from Florida, that I would move to Italy one day. Not knowing why, not knowing how, it was just always a feel, a pull. Something is just pulling me here. And so, um, what it prompted me to actually visit in Italy for the first time is that I actually had a vacation booked to Greece, and I paid for everything. I paid for the hotel. I was going to be going to Mykonos, and I paid for the hotel, paid for my flight, paid for everything. I booked through one of those, very famous websites in America, online websites where you call and they'll, book for you. I've used, those websites before for other trips. So I felt, okay, you know what? I will do it again. However, this time I booked my vacation. Everything was fine. Everything was booked. However, I ended up getting, a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis that, was kind of, that rocked me a bit. Thank God I'm okay now. So everything is fine. However, that is what got me to this point. Once I got that diagnosis, I had to cancel my trip to Mykonos. So, you know, being in the state of mind that I was in, I didn't think of calling the hotel for myself. I did not think of calling the airline for myself. I simply called the agency that I use to book my vacation and asked them to cancel. Told them I had to prove my medical information that I was giving them, that it wasn't just some, random lie I was telling. I had to give them proof that I was actually sick, that I was actually going to be going to surgery. My surgery was actually booked, and I think was like 2 days before I was supposed to leave California for Mykonos. So everything just fell right there, and I had to cancel. So I asked the booking agent, could they cancel my vacation, and they told me that they would, after I gave them the doctor information and the doctor, my doctor, notes and everything, that I'm going to be going to surgery and all of that, and my diagnosis and everything. So, needless to say, after surgery and after I was able to call, still in the process of healing, I called the agency to find out about my refund, when I would receive my refund, and they told me that um, they're working on it. So they started giving me the runaround, and eventually I reached out to the hotel on my own, and the hotel told me that no one canceled did not cancel my vacation. That they were at the hotel was actually waiting, expected me the day that I was supposed to show up, and I did not. And because I did not show up, I did not call, I did not cancel, that I lost my money. So the airline, I ended up calling the airline, and when I called the airline and explained what caused me to not make my flight, the hotel decided to give me a voucher. So with that voucher, they gave me 2 years in which to use the voucher. Then COVID hit, or a year, 12 months or something, to be honest. COVID hit, and then so they extended it for me through COVID. So it was coming to my deadline that I had to use my ticket. And so I tried to book again to go to Greece, because I was like, okay, let me go, try to get a vacation anyways, because the hotel told me that if I decided to come back to Greece, that they would actually give me a refund and I could stay at the hotel. So I was going to call the hotel and book, but I was trying to get a ticket for a flight first. And of course, I could get no flight. It didn't matter where I looked. I looked under the bed. I looked under the sofa. I looked under the table. There was just no flights available for me that would work along with the time that I needed and my voucher. So of course I was like, okay, Greece was off the table. And at that moment, it's when a little voice came to me like, you're planning on moving to Italy one day, right? So how about you go and check it out for the first time, because you've never even been there. So I'm like, okay, you know what? So instantly I Googled what is the most beautiful city in Italy, and Florence came up on, in the Google search. So I was like, oh my gosh, let me go and check it out. I actually tried to find a ticket. I got a ticket with with my voucher. I think I ended up having to pay extra $50 or something like that. I mean, everything was just perfect. So I booked my vacation. I paid for my hotel again because that's how I mean, listen, I don't try to show up and try to find a place to stay, or try to book my ticket the day before. No, I like to have everything planned out because I don't want to have the stress of showing up and something is not in place. I need to know where to go when I'm here. So of course I'm going to ask the hotel concierge what the recommendations are, how do I go about booking my tours and all of that. So I like to have all these information in advance. So that's how I travel, because especially when you're traveling as a woman, and especially this was going to be my first time traveling alone, because normally when I go on vacation, I would vacation with my daughter. So I'm traveling here now by myself for the first time on this vacation to Europe. And so I wanted to make sure that I was going to be safe. So, of course, I asked the hotel all the information that I required. They made their recommendations. I went ahead and that's how I booked my vacation. But the one thing I always do when I'm traveling to a country for the first time, I always ask the hotel to book a ride for me, to pick me up from the airport, because I just want to make sure that I'm safe. Yes, I could take a cab, but of course, I'd never been here before. I didn't know how the cab system worked. Some places you go, the cab drivers, they'll take you on a ride and overcharge you and all. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that I was going to arrive to my destination safely, that all my possession would be with all my possessions would be with me. So that's how I think in advance and just book my travels. So the hotel sent me a driver at the airport, and so that's how I came. So when I arrived in Italy for the very first time, my first day here was right at the end of COVID. I came to Italy the day that the mask mandate was dropped here. I remember coming in, I had to do my COVID test. You have to do everything, come in with your paperwork showing that you're good, you're safe, all of that good stuff. And I came wearing a mask because I had to wear a mask from California here the whole entire way. You had to wear your mask on the flight, which was understandable. It was COVID. So wear your mask through the airport, your layovers everywhere. I was in mask for over 15 hours, I think. So anyways, I got here, and when the driver collected my belongings and I sat in his car, he said to me, "You can take your mask off. The mask mandate got dropped today." So boom, I was like, I didn't even think about it. I felt like, yes, I'm good. I just flipped my mask off, put it in my bag, and that was the end of that, right? Anyways, I got here, and I'm telling you guys, I had one of the best weeks of my life, where instantly, before we even get to the best week, the moment the driver left the airport, I felt like I was home. That was just clear. I felt like the city just embraced me and said, "Welcome home." It was just this indescribable feeling that I had, where I was like, "Oh my God, I'm home." As he was driving through the city to take me to the airport, there were certain places I was like, "Oh my God, this feels like Jamaica," because I'm Jamaican. So because I'm Jamaican, I will cut off. You'll hear me talk like that because my Jamaican accent flips in with my American accent. And then the Italian is trying to sneak in there somewhere too. So guys, forgive me. My grammar is not always going to be correct, but bear with me. I'm human, I'm real, and that's just what it is. Okay. Thank you so much for understanding. Thank you in advance. So anyways, I was like, oh my God, there was a certain area that just reminded me of Jamaica, and I was like, I am truly home. I got to the hotel, and I had the best week. I went on tours. I went to museums. I just booked because I had everything laid out. Every other day I booked. I had an excursion, someplace to be, and so I had the most wonderful time here. And when it was time for me to go home, I didn't want to leave. I just didn't want to leave. I was so sad. I was so depressed. And honestly, nothing against America, because this is not a bash America session. I am very grateful for my life that I've had in America. I mean, there's no perfect place in the world. Doesn't matter where you go, where you're from, where you visit. There will never be a perfect country because man is in charge. As long as man is in charge, nothing will be perfect. So you just have to go with the flow. That's just what it is. I've lived in America since I was 15 years old. And I was able to buy cars. I was able to buy a house. I was able to start my business. I was able to start two businesses. So I'm truly grateful for the life I've had in America. But and I have no intentions of giving up my U.S. citizenship. So that is not even a question. That is not even a concern. That is not something that I think about at all. But I would like to live here in Italy I think, for the foreseeable future. Um, I actually still have my daughter in America, and I do have family in America. So I still will have to be able to go back, at some point. So that's just where it is. But at this moment, my heart, and as a matter of fact, for so many years, my heart has been in Italy, and I still don't understand why. I'm still seeking, if anybody can help me to figure it out. I don't need any psychics or anything of the sorts. No, I don't. But yeah, I still don't know the reason behind it, but I just know that I feel like I belong here. And so once I was here and once I left, for after my first vacation, I went back to the States, and the first thing I did, I had this large dining room table in my apartment, and the thing was so heavy, I started breaking it down. I started taking the legs off, but I couldn't lift it down myself. I had to call someone to help me, pay someone to help me to take it out of my apartment. That's how serious I was. I started getting rid of stuff. I started giving away some stuff. I sold some stuff, and yeah, and then some things I kept. I put them in storage. But before we get there, I actually yeah, so I went back to the States, and I started getting rid of things out of my apartment. Instantly, I went online, trying to get in touch with the Italian consulate in California. That was also challenging because, of course, the offices are open for a very limited time of day. They don't really answer the phone very often, it seems. So sometimes you'll be on the phone for hours at a time trying to get, to speak to someone. They don't really give a lot of information. So my advice to you, first advice, is that you would go online to your consulate in your city, state, country, or province, and check to see how you can get an appointment. But before you get the appointment, I highly recommend that you get the checklist. Go down the list of things that will be required, and then you want to make sure that you get everything and have everything in place. Okay? This is the first thing. You're going to require to be registered. If you want to get a student visa, that is, you're going to have to be registered in a school that is accepted by the immigration requirements, right? So it has to be a state school. It cannot be a private school. And I'll tell you why, how I know, because I've been there. But anyways, and then secondly, you want to make sure that you have your insurance. For however long you're going to be in the country, you're going to have to be insured. You'll have your own personal insurance with you. You're going to have to make sure you have enough money in the bank that you can show that you can take care of yourself, support yourself while you're going to school here. You're going to have an apartment in advance to show where you're going to live. It's either you're going to have an apartment, a place to stay, or a host, somebody that's going to put you up and host you for the length of stay. You're going to, what else off the top of my head? You're going to have a letter from your bank showing how long you've been with the bank, that your account is in good standing, and you're going to have to show that you have enough money in the bank to take care of yourself. Those are the first list of things that came off the top of my head. Oh, and the most important thing, you're going to have to show that you are actually at a B1. Your proficiency in Italian needs to be at a B1 level. So you're going to have to know how to speak Italian already before you will even be granted a visa. So what I recommend to you, if you don't know how to speak Italian, is that you register in a school and start taking Italian, start learning to speak Italian to get you up to the B1 proficiency. The school will have to give you a certification to show that you are actually, the school that you go into in the States will have to show that you're at a B1 proficiency. So you're going to have that certificate to go along with everything else that you're going to have to take with you. Oh, you're going to have to also, that's what you're going to need from the state side. Also, what will be required is that you're going to have to show that you have I've already said that. You have an apartment here, that you're registered in the school here. So yes, I already said that. Guys, I'm going off the top of my head. Okay, so forgive me if I repeat myself. I'm not written anything down. This is not a script. This is just the truth from my experience. Okay, I can only speak from my experience. I'm sure other people have had other experiences. That is theirs. I cannot speak for everyone else. I can only speak from my perspective, from my point of view, from the things how I did it. Okay. And I'm not here telling you that the way that I did it is the way that you should do it. Please, you don't. Well, no one would, because no one else. Because I'm getting to it. Let's be patient. Be patient. Okay. So these are the things that you're going to need, and I'm sure I'm probably missing one or two other information on the list. So yeah. If I've missed anything and you have any other question, you can always email me, and or just leave it in the comment section, and I'll try to answer it as soon as possible. Okay. So that's first off the top. Now, how I went about my process, right? Honestly, it was out of ignorance. I had no clue what I was doing. It was not something that I'm like, oh my God, I'm scheming. I'm going to be deliberately doing this and deliberately doing that. No, I just thought that I want to be here, and my heart is here after my first visit. And how do I start the process of moving? Because instantly I knew that I literally felt like I had a book. I was a book in America, and I was at the end of the book. I felt like I was working. I had my own business. I had a lovely group of clients, which I miss terribly, because you guys know that my relationship with you, well, and if you didn't know, my relationship with you was not only transactional. I viewed you guys as my friends, and I viewed you guys as my family, and I miss you guys terribly. That's a side note. So any of you watching, please know that you are missed. Okay. Yes, and I miss, seeing you guys, some of you every 2 weeks, some of you every 3 weeks, and some of you once per month. I miss our interactions. I miss our conversations. I miss our debates. Miss hearing you guys' story, miss having some, people to vent to about, when I go on my tangents. So you guys are missed. You guys are still appreciated. And yeah, I love you all. So I continue. So basically, yeah, I went back to the States, and I told my clients after being here, I'm telling them, guys, I'm going to be leaving in 2 years. And I did that because I felt like I didn't want to abandon my clients. I didn't want to just get up and book, oh, I'm leaving. I don't need you guys anymore. Maybe shouldn't touch my face. I don't know. I'm like, is something in my eye? Yeah. But I didn't want to feel like I'm abandoning my customers. I simply, it's just that respect. It's that they've been with me. I've had some clients that were with me 10 years. I've had some clients 9 years, 8, 7, 5, 2 years, a year, 6 months. I just felt like I didn't want to abandon my customers. And so I wanted to give them time, give the adjustment period and, go about it that way. But then one client in particular, she said to me, Marie, why are you putting your life on hold for us? She said, if we decided that we didn't want to come to you anymore, we would just stop coming. We wouldn't put our life on hold and give you notice. So you shouldn't put your life on hold for us. And that in that moment, it was just done. It was like, boom, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I came back 3 months later. After my first time was in June. And then I came back in September. And the second time I came back with one of my clients. And I remember she said to me, I can see why you love it here so much. But not only that, I remember our last day, we were walking past the Duomo, and tears just started flooding down my face. And I started crying, and she was like, don't cry, you're coming back. But at that moment, I was just like, I didn't want to leave. I just felt like I was leaving a part of myself at this point. And so I went after, we went back to the States. I started packing up, my clients. We had a packing party, they came over, some of my clients, they came over and helped me to pack up my apartment again. As a matter of fact, I've had clients that bought some of my furniture, some clients that I've given some stuff to. And honestly, it was just that kind of reciprocity where it was just like, it was just so awesome. And I cooked oxtails and rice and peas for them. And, we ate, and it was just, the thing is, I was packing up my life and letting go of, certain parts of my life, but I didn't feel like it was a loss. It was just like what was meant to be. That's what it felt like for me in that moment. And I still sit here and I'm thinking back about it, and it wasn't a time of sadness for me. Yes, it was a little bit stressful, but it's just what has to be done. And at this point, I had no visa. Guys, at this point, I had no visa. I was just packing. I was out of sheer just, oh, I'm just going to move to Italy. That was it for me. So I remembered I applied for my student visa because I was told, oh, well, no, not that I was told. I knew that coming here, I wanted to learn to speak Italian because I didn't speak the language. And I figured if I want to move to Italy, I better know how to speak the language, especially due to the fact that I want to live in the countryside. Right? I know in the city, yeah, you're going to have people that speak Italian, but I know that living in the countryside, nobody speaks English there for the most part. Well, not nobody, but for the most part, people will not speak English. They're going to speak Italian. So for me, and also being that I want to move to Italy, I thought it was my responsibility to learn to speak the language. I mean, out of just sheer respect, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to go to school. So I registered when I went back in after September. I said, okay, I want to leave by January because after my customer said to me, don't put my life on hold, and I decided that I was going to do it. I'm like, all right. So I remember I started, trying to reach out to immigration to get an appointment for the visa. I got all my my list in order. I registered in school. I got an apartment. I booked my apartment through a booking agency online. And that was another thing because I kept, you would book an appointment and then they would cancel, or it's difficult to find an apartment because it's always in season. They said it's not. There's a time of year where January is supposed to be the slow season. I was coming here in January, and it was difficult for me to get an apartment. And literally the apartment that I ended up getting, that's how, for me, I just feel that, God, divine intervention was there for me, because I booked an appointment, and I remember the lady, she reached back out to me. She said, I'm sorry, I have to cancel because the tenant, they asked to extend their stay. And so I couldn't get that apartment. And I remember this apartment that I was looking at, I looked at it a couple of times, and I was like, I don't know, because I was kind of nervous about booking an apartment online for a long-term stay, not really knowing the area, not really knowing, you're looking at the apartment, and a lot of times when you're looking at apartment online, it looks a lot better than it really is in person. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to show up, and I don't know what it's going to really be. I don't know if I'm going to like the apartment. I'm spending a lot of money, and, so all of these things are going through my head. But this apartment was almost like my last, my last apartment. That was the last one for me. And I went out and I just booked it. Right. And so booked the apartment, the landlord, responded, and it was through an agency that I went through online also to book an apartment here. You couldn't just go directly. So, so that's how it went, and got my apartment in line. And so basically I had everything. I paid, you have to give your deposit. I registered myself in this private school. Because I'm just thinking, you just need to get a student visa. You're just going to go to any school, whatever school. I didn't know that it had to be a state school, a state school or state college that I had to be registered in. And I remember when I registered to the school and I told them that I need, I'm going to be applying for a student visa. The school told me that the school was recognized by immigration. So I was like, okay, that's cool, right? So the school thought that they in the States that they were recognized. I don't know if they fibbed, they told me a lie or they really thought that, but and I don't think they would have a reason to lie to me. I don't. It's too important for them to lie about something that serious, I think, anyway. So I don't think that they lied. However, that school was not accepted by the consulate in California. So, but again, I had already paid for 6 months of schooling because I was thinking I'm coming to Italy for 6 months to go to school. I applied for a 6 month visa to come to school, and so that's what it was for me. So, I got everything in place. I had I mean, my checklist was checked and checked twice. If it was Christmas, Santa would have brought me a gift because I'm telling you, I was checked, ready to go. Okay. And I had my appointment. I booked my ticket. Oh, also, you're going to have to book your flight because usually you have to show that you're going to be traveling, I think, 10 days. Up to 10 days after receiving, you have to travel right away. So everything has to be lined up, and you really don't know if you're going to get accepted, a yes or a no from immigration. That is also so. Basically, for me, I stepped out on faith. Again, as I said, blind faith and ignorance of the laws. I didn't know. Really didn't know. I thought that it was just simply, you can just do it this way and you're fine, right? And you're fine, right? That was it for me. So anyways, I actually got everything, went to immigration, and when I went to immigration, I was declined because the school that I was registered for, was a private school. They said it was not recognized by the consulate or the immigration or legal the immigration services. So they declined me. I walked away. I was so dejected. I felt so dejected. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I literally had to make a decision right in that moment. I knew that I could visit Italy for 3 months as an American citizen. You can visit Italy for 3 months, just a vacation. So for me, I didn't want to lose the money that I paid for, my deposit for the hotel because again, remember I had a very a shorter window at this point to cancel. Had I canceled, I would probably lose half of my deposit. And so my school, I wasn't sure what would have happened. But I had already paid for my school. So I'm like, I didn't want to lose anything. Remember now, I'm communicating back and forth with Italians. I don't speak Italian. Yes, I wrote in English, but I just wasn't sure of whatever. So for me, I was just thinking that I'm going to lose my deposit. And so I decided I'm going to come here for 3 months, go to school. Well, I thought, yeah, come here for 3 months and then go to school. So I was registered to start school on January 9th. I arrived January 5th, right? So this is after my rejection in California. I literally gave notice. Well, no, I did not give notice at that time because one of my clients, she said she will move into my apartment for the period of time that I would be away because I was planning on giving up my apartment right away. She said, "Don't do that yet because you don't know what's going to happen when you go to Italy." So she said she took my apartment over for 3 months. She paid and stayed there for 3 months, and then I came to Italy, which I had to pay my rent here. So I did pay for 6 months in advance. Because for me, for no particular reason that I just didn't want to be here and have any kind of issue. So I just paid for my apartment for the length of time that I was going to be staying here. So I came here, I started going to school. And so, thought something was on that, but no. I came here, I started going to school, and it was tough, guys, because I came here not understanding a lick of Italian. I didn't know how to say anything. I mean, I remember for the first week, I was below the beginner, right? Which was a good thing for me that I was registered at a private college because then they could do this for you. They actually gave me a teacher by myself for the first week, and I would go in and he would pretty much ask me the same questions all week. And I still didn't understand what he was saying to me. It was like quanti anni ha, all these questions. How old are you? Where are you born? Di dove sei? Excuse me. See, I'm telling you, Italian sometimes when I need to speak it, it just poof out of my head. Di dove sei? Quanti anni ha? Come ti chiama? Buongiorno. All these basic questions he would ask me every single day, and I still wouldn't understand by the end of that first week. But I mean, I guess they thought I knew well enough. All this is going to be like, yes. I thought so they kind of put me in the beginners class because I was not even in the beginners class when I first started school. So they put me in the beginners class after a week. And that's when I start getting a kick in the butt because it was not easy. I was in tears. There were a couple of days in class where I was in tears. And I even thought, man, I can't. I'm not going to continue. And I remember this one friend I met in class, Angie. She's from Spain. Hi, Angie. She said to me, Marie, do not quit. She was in class with me. Me and her would meet up sometimes after, school for, hot chocolate, chocolate calda. And, she would kind of try to explain to me, the maschile, femminile, all of these things. And, she was very helpful and kind of like to help me to kind of just stay strong because honestly, guys, it was not just hard. It was a little bit embarrassing because I just felt like I felt stupid. And honestly, that is how I felt when I tell you that I was in tears in class a couple of times, that I was like, oh my God, I just didn't understand. So anyways, I went to school for 3 months. I came here, went to school, private school. I lived here for 3 months. And then I asked my landlord, would it be possible for me to extend my time here for a year? Now, even up until then, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew, I would tell everybody, I want to live here. I want to live, I would walk around and I would tell everybody at my school, I want to live here. I want to live in the countryside. And, so yeah, that's where I was with that. I actually, as I was here, I met another friend, she worked close to where I was living. And she actually, started kind of like telling me, no, you're going to need this. You're going to need to do this. You need to do that. I'll just call her Naz. Naz, thank you so much because you still are. You're still my ears. I still come and knock on your door at work and like, hey, this is what I'm going through right now. And you still give me advice. So I am so grateful for you. Right. So again, guys, yes, you're going to go through the process, but without the kindness of strangers at times, you're going to be lost. Let me just give you that. Right. And please do not be discouraged. Okay. It's proof. The fact that I'm sitting here speaking to you right now is proof that it can happen. Right. So be patient. Just get your ducks in a row. Know that it is not going to be easy. Do not come here thinking that the doors are just going to burst open for you, because it will not. Maybe it will, you never know. But you're going to need people here. You're going to need to be a little bit patient when you come here because Italians, they work differently than Americans do. Americans like, Italians are like, chill, piano, piano. Piano, piano, per favore. Don't come here trying to push us around. Take it easy, right? So just keep that in mind, right? So anyways, as I said, I went to school. Now, at the end of my 3 months, that just went by like that. It went by in a flash for me. I remember my last month here, I was depressed because I knew that I had to leave. And even though I was thinking in my head, remember now, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know the rules. I didn't know the laws. I really didn't look anything up. And I'm asking you guys not to judge me, right? My journey is my journey and yours is yours, okay? So do not sit there and judge me and say, oh, she should have done that. How could you not? I know, okay? I know, but it worked for me. So thank you so much. Do not judge. Anyways, so my last month, I remember in March, I couldn't even enjoy myself because I was just so sad that I was going to be leaving. I was literally like, the days were just flying by. And so when I was leaving, I told my school, guys, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Now, they probably thought, I don't know what they thought. because none of them said to me, no, you can't come back in 2 weeks. You're going to have to stay for 3 months back in the States. It wasn't until I got back to the States and I went to work, at this point, I'd already given up my shop. So I went to work in one of my friend's store, and so I remember, telling her, oh, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And so she said to me, no, Ari, thank you so much, sweetheart. I love you. Mwah. Well, yes. So Ari, she said to me, Marie, you cannot go back to the States. You cannot go back to Italy right away. You have to be in the States for 3 months because you can only be in Italy for 3 months. And then you have to stay out of Italy. For 3 months, and then you can go back after that. In a 6 month period, you can only be in Italy for the 90 days, right? And then you have to be out of Italy and then wait 90 days before you can come back. And that's how it is. I didn't know this, guys. Again, I was just thinking Italy's calling me and here I come. Okay, that's just the truth about it. I had no idea what I was doing. So it's just divine intervention on my part. Honestly, that's what it is. I don't do the lucky thing. I believe in divine intervention. I believe that there's a reason, a purpose for me to be here. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do know that in order for me to be a help, I have to help myself first, and then I'll be able to help others. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the stage right now where I'm trying to figure out how to help myself, and then I get to the point where I can help others. And that's just I feel one of my purposes. I'm trying to figure out what it is that calls me to this place so much. I don't know what it is. I mean, I will go outside, just look in the sky, and there's just a joy. It's like almost a childlike joy that I feel, where it's just pure. And so I feel like, what is that? I feel like something's crawling on me. What the heck? But anyways, it's just a childlike joy that I feel here. And it's just, I feel like I just belong here. I'm a part of this country, I feel. And so I never want to leave. I never want to leave permanently. Right? So that's just what it is for me. So anyways, I went back to the States, and after Aura said to me, Marie, you can't leave. You have to be here in the States for 3 months. At this point, guys, I had already ended my lease, given up my apartment. My furniture by this point was in storage. I think it was a day or two before I had to come. I was planning on coming back. My ticket was booked to come back to Italy, to finish up my final 3 months of school, because my school allowed me to take the time off, and then I would go back to finish my course. And so when Ari told me, I looked online. I was like, I Googled it, and it said, oh, you can only be in Italy for 90 days in a 6 month period. And I was like, what? So I called the airline, explained to them what it was. They understood right away. They didn't give me a hard time, and they allowed me to rebook my flight. Again, I had to pay a little bit extra to rebook my flight. And so I did that. So book it for 3 months later to the date, like 3 months on the nose. Like the 3 months is on the 20th. I am leaving on the 20th. And that was it, right? So anyways, rebooked. Then I came back to go back to school. But for that 3 months while I was in the state, I was on Duolingo every single day. I was Duolingoing my head off, because I was like, I'm not going to go back to school not knowing anything. And so when I came back to school, I was a little bit better. Wasn't great, but I was a little better. When I was in my teacher's class, the same teacher that was a little tough on me, she was like, you're like a different student. I said, yeah, I was so proud too. I was like, yeah, I did Duolingo every day. So Duolingo does help, guys. It really does help. But communicating with others, is what you're going to need. You're going to need to understand, the grammar, the structure of the phrase, the sentences. You're going to have to learn all these. Italian is not an easy language to learn, but honestly, I look forward to the day when I'm able to speak it fluently. I just cannot wait for that moment. Honestly, I'm understanding a lot better. Thank God. able to write on it. When I'm writing, I can write it because then I'm able to think slower. So I'm able to write it. I write it and put it in Google Translate. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm speaking Italian. However, sometimes when I have to communicate with others, especially if I'm under pressure, if I'm nervous, my mind goes blank. Honestly, Italian will not stick with me when I'm nervous. So I'm gonna have to be able to, and I have to. They keep saying, "Don't think in English," but the thing is, English is what I understand. So for me, I don't understand. How do I not think in the language that I understand? So I'm trying to get to the point now where I'm thinking only in mainly in Italian, and try to, mentally Italian, write in Italian, and try to practice as much as I possibly can. If I had someone to speak with on a regular base in Italian, then I think I would already been fluent. I would have been going already, but that's just what it is, and that's where I am right now. Now, let's get back to visa. So when I went back after I came back for the second time into the States, and then I was at the end of my schooling. I had to register in another school now because, again, I had to book another appointment to go back to the consulate in Italian consulate in California, to apply for my visa to come back for the student visa at this point, because now I was at the proficiency to learn to speak Italian. I can now register in school. So I registered to school. Now, another thing you need to know is that when you register for school, you cannot just register to speak Italian. You're going to have to, it has to be two different subjects. One could be language, and you have to have another language, right? Whether it be art history, culture, whatever subject, you know what I mean? It could be anything. It cannot just be to speak Italian. So keep that in mind whenever you are going to get your school registration in order, that it has to be for two subjects at least. Okay. So that is very important. So I had to register at another school because I had to leave the school that I was at for the first 6 months, because again, it was a private school and it was not recognized by the immigration services. So now I had to register at a state school, a school that was approved by the immigration services, and then I went back to immigration, and I didn't have an appointment. Let me go back. Let me rewind just a little bit, back up a little bit. Before leaving, when I knew that I was going to be going back to the States to apply for my visa, I booked my appointment online from Italy, to, of course, in California. My appointment, I remember I went back to the States the end of March. And I think my appointment was like maybe about 4 days or 5 days after getting back to the States. Roughly, it was not a very long time. It wasn't even a week after landing that I had my appointment. So to give the exact amount of days, let's not even put a number on it. But it wasn't long after arriving back into the States, I had an appointment to go to immigration. Well, I thought. When I went to immigration and I went up to as a matter of fact, first of all, when I went to the office, luckily I was like, I'm going early to the consulate. I knew where it was, so I'm just driving and I'm going over there. When I went there, oh, they moved location. So I was like, where are they? So there was some guard downstairs, and they told me where they were located, put it in my GPS, and I drove to the new location, parked, went in. Went up to the door. When I went to the door, there was an older gentleman. It was the same gentleman that was there. You can tell that he's been working for them for a very long time. And I said, gave him my name and told him that I had an appointment. And he looked at the list and he was like, no, you don't have an appointment. I was like, what do you mean I don't have an appointment? I was like, yeah, I do. So I went into my, my email, where I had the appointment schedule. And then I showed him. When he looked at the date, he said, yeah, you do have an appointment. I was like, yeah, I have an appointment. I just booked it maybe about 3 months ago. So yeah, I have, or 2 months ago. Yeah, I have an appointment. Anyways, he went inside. When he went inside and they're looking around, when they look, my appointment was booked for the year before, which didn't even make sense to me because how can I have an appointment booked for the year before when I booked it like just 2 or 3 months ago, right? So that was the strangest thing. I was like, somebody's playing with me right now. Somebody's trying to block me from my destiny. So, anyways, I was like, oh my God. So the older gentleman at the gate, he was like, let me go in and speak to someone. He went in and he spoke to someone behind the, after they got it, that, after they figured out what the problem was, why my name was not on the list. This gentleman behind the counter, he was like, okay, he'll see me. Reluctantly, he was like, he'll see me. So I went in, finally, and when I went into the window, already I knew he did not want to give me a thing. He didn't want to give me my visa. And I was like, what? Why don't you not want to give me my visa, sir? What? I have everything in place, right? So he was like, no, we can't give you because he found whatever the reason he found, you know what I mean? And I was walking out of there and I felt so dejected. I felt like I was crying. And the older gentleman, he said, what happened? And I told him. And so he said, no, don't leave. Speak to a manager. And so the gentleman at the door, the older gentleman, I called him an angel, honestly. He went in and he said, she's requesting to speak to a manager. The manager came, the manager went over all my paperwork and I had everything in order. And so that is how I ended up. And they were like, okay, do you have your envelope? Because at this point, guys, literally my flight to return was less than a week away. I had everything lined up to the point where, well, I didn't have everything lined up. Everything fell into place is what I'm going to say, because it was out of my control. All of this is out of my control, how things just worked. It just could not happen. It could not have happened any other way. One thing out of alignment and it would not have worked, honestly. And I feel like God just had things in order for me. And so that is how it all worked. But I went, the manager came and he said, they asked me, do you have your envelope? I did have my envelope, but I'm like, but I don't have time to wait for the visa to come in the mail. I'm leaving, my flight is booked for 2 days. My flight was booked for the Saturday. Now I went in, if I'm not mistaken, I went in on a Thursday and they said, but we're closed on Friday. Crazy, guys. They're closed to the public on Fridays. However, the office is open, but they just don't see customers or visa applicants on Fridays. So they said, they were like, we're closed tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God. So, but they said, okay, the office will be open. Be here at this time and we will just give it to you. And that's how it happened for me. When I tell you, I think they said be here at 10 o'clock. I was there at 9:30. I was just, there. Nobody, the doors were closed. I was standing there on the floor. And here in these types of building, cameras are on you. I'm just there, knowing that I'm under surveillance, knowing that they see me standing outside, but they're going to make me sweat a little bit. You know what I mean? And so I went there for my visa. I waited. And then I went in, and when I went in, the gentleman that refused me was the one who had to give me my visa. And honestly, he gave it to me begrudgingly, but it's okay because I'm here, right? So I say this to say that yes, you could have everything in place, but if you have somebody who wants to just give you that hairline reason why, they want to turn you away, and then you'll have people like the manager that saw the passion that was inside of me, saw my tears, I guess, saw and knew he knew how much money that I'd already spent, only because they know what is required for you to get this visa. And you have to have everything in place before you get the visa for travel. All the insurance, you have to have the school, all the registration, everything that goes into the process. So I think that is why he had some compassion on me that day. And he just said, here it is. But it's not that he did anything off record. Everything was in order. And so that's how I got my visa. And literally, I was on the plane the next day. Yeah, with my suitcases. I won't tell you how many suitcases I brought in total. Because I came twice. Remember my first trip and then my second trip. Now, when you come back, now you have to go to school. It's don't think that you're going to apply for a student visa and you can go to school whenever you want to go to school. I actually loved it, which is surprising because when I was younger and had to go to school, I didn't like it so much. But as an adult, I completely embraced it. I love it. I'm still, because I think it's because I'm blaming it on my age. Why it hasn't, flown yet because, I'm so stuck on English. And, whenever you're uncomfortable, you just fall back on what's comfortable for you. And English is comfortable for me. And I think that's one of the things that is kind of blocking me from speaking. But, one day I'll get there. I'm going to get there soon. I promise. Trust me, I'm going to get there better. Okay. So anyways, so yeah, so that's the US end of the process. Now, when you come to Italy, once you get your visa, you're going to get a list of things that you have to do. They're going to let you know as immigration. So it's nothing that I'm telling you that you will not learn, right? You're gonna have to register. You have to come to the country, and you have, was it like a week or so? So I cannot remember honestly, guys. I don't remember exactly how many days. You have to go and register, go to the immigration to make sure you're here. You have to register your apartment, your lease. Make sure your lease is registered to show this is where you live, and all of that. Now, if you have a lease of your own, or if you're staying with someone, then of course there'll be a slight little difference in what's required. But your host will have to show that yes, you're living with them. So again, it all depends on who you're staying with. I don't know if any landlord gives a hard time, because my experience has not been that. My landlord has been very great. He's been very helpful on so many levels. If I ask, I said, look, sometimes he gives me a hard time because I'm bothering the man and I'm taking him away from his job. But he's actually left his job or take his break and go with me to the commune here to translate for me, which is really above and beyond. He didn't have to do that at all. As a matter of fact, when you're here, bear in mind that when you go to register your lease or to go to the immigration to register, to apply, to get your permesso di soggiorno, because when you come here to Italy with your visa, you have a certain amount of days in order to register your lease, make sure you report that you're here, show where you're living, and then you're going to have to get your permesso di soggiorno, right? Your permesso di soggiorno will be for the length of your visa. And it's right to the day that the visa expire on the 1st, you will be leaving on the 1st. They don't expect you to stay a day over, not one day over. Okay, so keep that in mind. So yes, so you have to get all these things in place. Remember now, when you go to the embassy, they do. I think Italians do speak English. However, they want you to speak Italian also to them. You don't show up to any place in Italy and just automatically jump in, except for the stores in the city, where, they're a little bit more lenient with you. But here, if you're going to any of these government buildings, they're going to kind of insist that you speak Italian, honestly. And if you don't speak Italian, then you're going to have someone go with you. Either you pay someone or you have a friend like me who was kind enough to get up out of his bed, early enough to go with me to the immigration office. My friend Filippo, thank you so much, amico mio. Grazie mille, ti voglio bene. So yes, I actually, had a friend, Filippo, who would get up with me, go and sit with me in the office, immigration office, and you're going to be there for a while. If your appointment is 10 o'clock, just give yourself 2 hours.
because there are a lot of people there. Usually the line's long. Some people are at the window a little bit longer than others. I mean, it's all par for the course, guys. You go with the flow, right? It's what it is. And so, yes, I had to depend on the kindness of my friend who volunteered his time to go with me, and I'm forever grateful. Okay. Again, my landlord, another person who was very helpful, right? And then my friend Nas. This is all the people here in Italy. My friend Nas, who's was always there to say, no, you need to make sure you have this, you need to make sure you have that, because she went through the process. She was kind enough to share with me simply because she said, I see you're a nice person and I want to help you. And that's how she helped me. And so this is what it is. While you're here, you're going to school here, right? For me, it was important and it was necessary for me to get a job, right? While you're here in Italy on a student visa, you're able to work 20 hours, part-time only. 20 hours per week is all you can work. Okay. So basically, I got a job. I was introduced to this family that owns a business in the center. Well, they two businesses in the center, and they, were kind and gracious enough to give me a job, take a chance on me. I mean, because nobody knows you here, and in all honesty, a lot of people here, in order to get a job here, sometimes you need to know someone. It is, for me personally, I've owned and operated my business for more than 20 years in America, and I'm very experienced. I'm a hard worker. I show up. I'm going to do my best, or I believe if you're going to show up, you do your best, or not show up at all. That's just me. That's my motto. Especially when you work for yourself, you understand what it means to kind of be serious about, what you're doing. And if I'm going to work for someone, I'm going to give of myself equally. I take it seriously. I don't take it for granted that, someone is actually taking a chance on me. So for me, this is how I show my gratitude. I want to do a good job and I want to do my best. And that's just what it is. That's how I show up, right? So not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, guys. Some days, when, my situations and my immigration or whatever, my health, or missing my daughter, my family, comes down on me. I get in my mood, and I'm a little bit down, don't want to speak and stuff like that. That's just how I process. It's not perfect. Some people take it personal, as a personal affront if I'm not speaking. Not personal ever to someone else, especially if we've had no issues. It's just what it is. But that's just how I process. So yeah. But yeah, if I show up, I'm going to try to do my best. So yes, you want to get a job here. So yes, I got myself a job, and I was working, and my boss, who I'm going to say has been one of my angels, because I have to say that everything that I ask of my boss, he would give it to me when it comes to immigration. If I said, boss, this is what I need. I need this contract for work because I'm thinking of changing over my visa to a work visa. I would like to be here, explain my process and everything. He was willing to do everything. He was willing, if I said I need, if immigration required this, and this, my boss would just give it to me. And he would not give me a hassle about it at all. He would provide what I required. So for that, I'm truly grateful to my boss. Angelo, thank you so much. Okay. I guess this is a thank you video also. While I'm here, right? Yes, I'm so grateful so basically, guys, yes, all these things are in place, all these things are required, but you need people. At the end of the day, you're going to need people who is generous enough and willing to give you, a hand along your way. That is just the truth. And I was blessed enough to have these people, and everybody would just be perfectly who I needed. It just happened like that for me. So again, these are the list of things you're going to have to do when you get here. Not only that, if you're only here on a student visa and you're not going to do everything and try to get a job or try to change or try to stay, and in all honesty, I have to let you guys know, I was told that it is not done where you can change over your visa. So again, divine intervention on my part, because I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I simply was just going with my heart. I was just going with how I was feeling. I'm like, okay, I was granted my permesso di soggiorno. I think it was like 2 months or 3 months before it was going to be expired. And so you have to now find, someone who can help you to file for your, for whatever it is that you're looking for. Either you're looking for an extension or whatever. I knew that I want to be here. I wanted residency. I'd been here in the country on and off by this point, for 2 years, I think. Yeah, for 2 years. So I was here. I was renting already for 2 years. So I think I was qualified. However, I still needed, the process is these are the steps you have to go by. So I went to, someone referred me to an agency, an immigration agency that actually helps, immigrants or expats with their paperwork. Because again, I don't speak Italian to understand what it is to fill out the forms or anything. So you need help. I went to this agency and they almost got me in trouble because the gentleman, I guess he had too many people ahead. So he accepted me as a client and said, don't worry, I'm going to start doing the paperwork. And I had to be on him. It got to the point where he stopped answering me, which was like, I thought was just so unprofessional because I guess I was bothering him so much. But the thing is, my deadline was coming up and I had nothing from him to do what was required next of me. So I had to be staying on him about it. And I guess he was annoyed. So he stopped answering my calls. It got to the point where my landlord just got fed up of the whole situation because every time I would see him, he would tell me, "Oh, your landlord needs to do this. Your landlord needs to do this." And for my landlord doesn't like to be bothered too much. He's a businessman. He's working, and he does. I mean, he can't deal with my crap. Every day that I have to go to this agency. So one day he just got to the point, I'm meeting you there at the office. Went there. When he got there, when we left, he was like, this is bullshit. I'm taking you to the comune. The comune is right down there. So he took me to the comune. But the only reason I didn't go on my own, I don't speak Italian well enough to understand, to know what is required. And when you go to the comune here, now this is no longer the student visa. By this point, my student visa is expired. So now I'm trying to apply for residence is what I'm pretty much trying to do, trying to apply for a working visa, right? So there was a whole other list of things that I had to do and had paperwork I had to prepare. And I'm telling you, there were so many days of tears just flowing down my face, just out of, oh, you're missing this. You go back and oh, but this is not wrong. And that's just how it is. And it's like, please give me a list of what I need. But that's just the process here, guys. I don't think it's not personal. It's not personal because anybody else that I've ever spoken to, they pretty much went through the same thing. So it is what it is. I mean, listen, I'm an emotional woman, okay? I'm very emotional, okay? I hear a song that moves me and I'm crying. So it happens. But yeah, there are times that I got to the point where I felt like, oh my God, they don't want me here. I'm like, but I belong here in my mind. I'm like, I belong here in my heart. I belong here. And so it was what it is. And yeah, and you have to go not only to the comune, then you have to go to the prefettura, to the questura. It's a whole lot of different things you have to do in order to extend stay or to change over. I don't know if changing over from a student visa to a work visa is done, because even when I went to the prefecture, to the police, the immigration police, they were like, this is not usually done. It is difficult. So I'm not even going to give a list of what you need to do on that part. The only part I'm trying to help you with is how do you go about, the only questions I can answer for you is my steps in how I went about getting my student visa, okay, and how I ended up being here. So, no, guys, I am no longer here on a student visa. My student visa has expired. I am now on a working permit. I'm still waiting for my permesso. I am actually a resident. Sono una italiana adesso. Grazie. See, that's the thing. I'm thinking in English, like, what am I supposed to be saying? And how do I translate it? That's my problem, guys. Get out of that. Get out of it. Get away from English, Marie. But anyways, yeah, see? Yeah. But anyways, so guys, I'm hoping that I answered your questions. I know I had to take you around, because I had to weave it in. I couldn't just sit here giving out a list of anything. I am not working with immigration. So I cannot give you these things. Nothing that I say is a map for you to go about your process, because honestly the process was very stressful for me. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm grateful to God that I'm able to be sitting here in Italy right now, because it is where I feel I belong. I never want to leave permanently, and so here I am, right? If it is possible for me, guys, it is possible for you. If you want it badly enough, again, you have to have the courage to really step out on faith. That's just what it is at the end of the day. If you're going to procrastinate, you're never going to get anywhere in life. I truly believe that you have to be able to move and do. If it's something that you really want, you have to be able to just get up and do it. Nothing is The time will never be perfect for anything in life. That's what I know for a fact. There's never a perfect time. You can never map out anything perfectly in life, because while you plan, God laughs. God's plan for you is something different than you have in store for yourself. Okay. And that's why I know that me being here is not just on my own, of my own free will. Trust me, I prayed about it so much. Like, if it's not where I'm supposed to be, please don't let me even be here. I mean, my entire life in America has been uprooted and thrown up in the sky. Wherever the chips fell, they're laying there still. Okay. I actually started another business during COVID in America, right before, to show you that I had no intention of coming here to stay. I started a whole new business, invested a large chunk of my savings in that business. And before leaving, I literally all my merch, I donated it to the veterans charity, to a veterans charity in California. So yeah, I literally lost that. That was a big loss, which I could have held on to that money had I known I would have been here. But it would have been staying here when I came here, after coming here for the first time. So no, it wasn't like I mapped out that, oh my God, I'm going to do this and go around this corner and go around that corner. No, honestly, I am here moving simply by faith that this is where I'm meant to be. Yeah. And God has gotten me this far so far, and I know that He will carry me the rest of the way. So if you truly want to be here in Italy, know that no, it's not a walk in the park. Know that no two stories will ever be alike. I don't think anyone has the same identical story. It's different for everyone. Um, Even if you think that you're qualified and you meet all the requirements, when you get to the offices, sometimes the person sitting across from you is probably just not even feeling you, and they don't feel like they want to help you be very helpful. They probably like, no, go home. I literally had to say, I literally said that to a gentleman at the Comune once. I was like, it's like you don't want me here. What is wrong with you? I was like arguing with the man in the office. I was like, please, I was just here last week and you didn't tell me that I needed this. And I got to the point, I don't know how much of what I said he understood again, but I got to the point where I was so frustrated. As a matter of fact, they told my landlord that he couldn't help me at one point, because my landlord, he went with me twice to translate for me. And he told me that they told him that he should not be helping me. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. It is not like you come here and it's just a walk in the park and it's an easy breeze. It wasn't an easy breeze for me. Nothing, but again, in all honesty, I would be more fearful if it was too easy, because, I believe that anything that is worth having, yeah, you're going to have to work for it. You know, you don't get to the peak without climbing the mountain. So at the end of the day, that's just life, right? And I'm hoping, guys, that I did not even sip my coffee. Let me sip. Just so you know, it's really coffee in my cup. Yeah. It's ice cold by now, but still good. But yeah. So just please know that yes, I'm here in Italy at the moment. I'm here in Italy, but it wasn't easy. It is possible, right? Make sure that you meet all the requirements of the immigration standard, whatever the immigration requirements are. Make sure that you meet all of that. You have all your ducks in a row. Everything has to be lined up to go. And even though you have everything lined up to go, it's not 100% guarantee, right? Because I remember my before getting my visa, the man that wanted to turn me away, he was like, "Well, you don't speak Italian well enough." And while I was sitting there waiting to speak to the manager, a young man went up to the window and he said that he's been going to school here. He didn't speak any Italian whatsoever. And that same gentleman who was trying to refuse me gave that young man a visa when he was trying to tell me that I didn't speak Italian enough. I was at least attempting. The young man wasn't even trying. And he was like, "You've been in Italy for how long? And you for a year and you don't speak Italian?" And the guy didn't speak Italian, but he was willing to give him he gave him, not was willing, he actually gave him his visa. So again, it boils down to whoever you're going to see when you get there, you know, the offices when you go in, and guess depending on the type of day that they're having. So yeah, that's where we are, right? But again, I'm here. Do not be discouraged. You have to try. You're never going to know if you'll be qualified unless you try, right? Again, guys, this is not, I repeat, this is not a how-to guide in how to get your visa, a student visa, or how to come to Italy. This is simply me sharing my story, my journey with you. If it can be of help or if you find it to be useful, well, I'm very happy for that. Okay? Guys, I'm going to ask also, please, if you've stuck around for this long, could you please just subscribe to my channel, please, so that YouTube can recognize me and make me a legitimate child of theirs. They don't acknowledge me at the moment at all. I'm merely just that child over there. So I'm asking you, please subscribe, like my video, leave a comment, and share with someone who you think this could be useful to. Okay? And thank you so much for watching. So guys, now that we've come to the end of another vlog, I thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed my content and you find it to be useful, I ask that you please subscribe, like, share, ring that notification bell so that you'll be among the first to know when I post new content. And please feel free to leave a comment below. Be nice, please. Okay? And until the next video, guys, thank you so much for watching. Ciao. Ta-da! Ta-da!
Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio e buonasera. Sono Marie e questo è Marie a Firenze. Buongiorno. What the heck is that? Now it's time for the English. Okay. What is that? Don't be poking out like that.